I have a couple questions, somewhat related to your upcoming YouTube video, which does relate to technology
Yeah.
as well as Bitcoin. Surveillance is obviously an increasingly prevalent issue in our society, like facial recognition software, tracking protesters, Amazon workers' efficiency being automatically monitored in warehouses. And it seems like, both resistance movements and labor are deeply affected by uses of these developing technologies. Is there a way out, do you think? Can these technologies be used to foster resistance? Can they be resisted? What are your general thoughts?
Yeah, I think there are ways and means and methods of resisting these kinds of things. The framework that I use as an expert, as a security expert, we use this term called threat modeling, which basically says not every single person's threat amounts are the same. So Julian is going to have a very different security framework that he needs from Liv, right? Because you're different people and you're exposed to different threats, right? And if you're a protester, you're going to have to take additional precautions and do certain things to protect yourself electronically, right? Whereas if you're me, obviously I have a much wider range of potential threats, including state actors. So, you just have to view each person's threat model as sort of the framework that they have to work within. And I think that you're going to use different tools for these different things. They're not going to be specific to each thing. And I think that one of the things that a lot of Bitcoin bros try to do, a lot of people who don't know about this stuff, is they try to give you a one-size-fits-all. I highly recommend that people just automatically encrypt their conversations, like no matter what. So I adhere to the idea that you should use Signal as a means of communication over the phone. But that doesn't mean that you should use cryptocurrency in all instances, in all situations, right? Some people, certainly those who do sex work or people who deal with illicit substance transactions consensually, they obviously have an interest in using Bitcoin for anonymity purposes, or at least like having something that isn't like paper money or that is electronic, that doesn't require the credit card system like Stripe or some payment system. And so, yeah, I think that it depends on what you're trying to do and who you are and what your, like, who the threats that you're dealing with are. Are you trying to keep stuff from the police? Is that your threat? If you're a protester, if you're a sex worker, are you trying to deal with the far right? In which case sometimes avoiding crypto might be a better option because it's easier to get on the ledger a sort of trail and to get you doxxed, unless you're using Ethereum. And then there's different people who they're just living their lives. They're being chill, and how much protection they need to make, or how many precautions they need to take. And I think that normal people should do more than they are doing, but that doesn't mean that they need to have custom routers or server farms or using multiple phones or having a shell company, right? There's different threat models.
What about tactical Oakleys?
Tactical Oakleys? Yeah, I use tactical Oakleys because they look cool, not because they keep me safe or secure.
There we go.
It's a good double-sided purpose. It does both. Yeah, on the question of Bitcoin, it does seem like there is this double-sided nature to it. They could be used for like sex work, for instance, possibly good causes, but then again, we can think of like it used on the right as well. I mean, yeah. I can imagine like with the stuff going on with Matt Gaetz, that if he didn't use Cash App and with his name, where it was like, this is for, prostitution of 17-year-old in the message, but then used, let's say, crypto instead.
Yeah.
He would have been far less in hot water at the moment. What do you think are going to be the longer effects of something like cryptocurrency? Like, is it here to stay as a currency model? Is it going to get more relevant? Is it a passing fad?
I don't view cryptocurrency as a currency model, personally. Well, I do think it is cryptocurrency is real, but I don't think that it's a viable alternative to fiat currency. And the reason why is because there's no enforcement mechanism, right? And you see this with NFTs, for example, right? Non-fungible tokens are basically these certificates that say, encryption certificates that say, I own this this easily reproducible digital item, right? And this can be verified by the ledger, right? I am the owner of this JPEG, right? Which is I mean, it's an absurd notion, right? Because there's no enforcement mechanism, right? Because it's easily transferable, it's easily movable, and you can't really do anything with it, right? Like, what does it mean to say, like, I have a certificate that I've spent an enormous amount of energy trying to obtain a hash value for and apply it to this JPEG file? Like, what does that mean? Like, it doesn't mean anything. Because society still uses fiat currency, and it still uses physical ownership and enforcement and protection of these things in order for the world to work, as a currency system, right? Which is one of the reasons why at the end of the day, Elon Musk said it best, in his SNL skit, where it's a hustle, right? It is. Cryptocurrency is a way of using the scarcity of certain hash values and the energy expenditure of calculating a ton of hash values, throwing them out, finding the right ones that meet certain criteria, which uses up an enormous amount of energy because you have to do mining, which requires an enormous amount of energy. So you have to be rich in order to get the mining apparatus and the mining equipment, because you can't do this on your laptop. You can't do this on your desktop. You need an actual facility to do this stuff. And you have these rich people who are able to do these things, obtain this, gather these certificates that say that they own possession of these hash values. And those are real. Those are tangible. And those are provable. So I think it's fascinating because these certificates that are generated through the mining process do have a kind of value, but they're, as a replacement to fiat currency, I don't think that it's viable in that way. Right. So I think that it is a true commodity, but it is not an alternative currency.
Right. And on the question of Elon Musk, he seemed to have been on the crypto train for a while, right? Even with Dogecoin, and then he suddenly seemingly left it, citing environmental reasons, for instance. Is there a rhyme or reason to that? Do you think did he use that for his personal advantage, or was it really just he didn't realize the ecological response and that it looked bad?
I think he cares more about it looking bad, because one of the problems that Tesla as a corporation has now is that they don't have the air of responsibility that they had, and the air of being ecologically responsible as they used to. So whenever they're trying to say, hey, we should coup Bolivia, right? They have less sway, right? And in saying that they're the good guys, right? So I think it's a branding issue for Tesla. I think it has more to do with a branding issue for Tesla than Elon Musk actually caring.
Right. Maybe the board of execs being like, Elon, you have to stop posting. And going a bit back to crypto, people generally view it as super decentralized and impossible to be used by state actors or other erroneous sort of larger actors. Yet it seems like this is sort of not the full story in a lot of ways. Can state actors use crypto to their advantage, and how?
Yes, they regularly do, in fact. So state actors, not necessarily the United States, but other state actors, use cryptocurrency to hide the trail of sending. I mean, it's even said they're even sending money to their intelligence officers on the ground, right? To have a less traceable way, or a more difficult to trace way of moving funds around without having to send it in a diplomatic pouch or something, right? So state actors can use it. Cryptocurrency is not untraceable. It is traceable. Even Ethereum, you can untangle it if you're a state actor. You can untangle the ledger and find out with the mixnets who is who. It just becomes, the cost is much higher, right? You need to have an active role and engagement. You have to be able to invest the resources to be able to untangle this, and it's not clear that the juice is worth the squeeze for them. So if they need to, state actors can untangle cryptocurrency. I don't think that this is currently something that people that are using cryptocurrency should be concerned about. But the idea that your Ethereum transactions are perfectly secure and will never be traced is, I think, a misnomer.
And so tell us about this YouTube series that you're working on related to science and technology.
Okay, so first off, I'm going to start off with the fact that at one point I was bored during the quarantine and I needed to figure out what I was going to do. So I started Twitch streaming. And another thing that I was going to do was I was going to, for the first time, start to do content production. And I decided to use video because I have an interest in film and recording. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to dive into making YouTube videos. And it's really hard. So I'm able to record really easily. I'm able to come up with ideas really easily. And in summer of last year, I said, hey, I'm going to do a YouTube series. I'm going to start posting YouTube videos. I had a bunch of material, and I started putting it together, and I opened up a video editor for the first time. And I'm very familiar with Photoshop. I'm very familiar with Illustrator. I'm very familiar with audio editing programs I used to be a DJ, in fact. So I have experience with photography. I have experience with recording. No idea what I'm doing. I open this thing up and I'm like overwhelmed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I take film classes. Last autumn, I was like, okay, I have no idea how to do digital film editing.
Mm-hmm.
I need to admit that. So I took film classes. And so for the last 6 or 8 months, I've been learning how to do video editing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've been doing is I've been producing a YouTube video series that is documentary in nature. I'm working on the length. It looks like it's going to be closer to 30 minutes now for the YouTube video length. I don't want to do these long-ass video essays, right? Where you have these video essays that are boring and they're like an hour and a half long or 2 hours long, right?
Yeah, it's just a humanities essay, basically.
Like I have the intent of having something a lot more like Bill Nye, the science guy. Like I'm a STEM person, right? Like I work in science and technology. So my opinions on stuff are kind of more fluid, but I really want to do explainer videos because I feel like some issues that are talked about a lot, people don't actually understand what they're talking about. They'll have opinions about something that they don't actually understand. And I felt that way about cryptocurrency. I feel that way about artificial intelligence. I feel that way about encryption. I feel that way about surveillance. I feel that way about automation. I feel that way about a lot of different tech issues, right? Where people really don't understand what they're talking about, but they'll have hella opinions about it, right? So that's what I want to do is I want to create video series in which I address that. And so my first video is on cryptocurrency, and it's just a fun, meme-filled adventure that delves into what cryptocurrency is, how it works, where it came from, and what the actual environmental effects of it are. Because I do think that people who don't like cryptocurrency are exaggerating it a bit. And so I want people, regardless of your political beliefs, regardless of your philosophy, I want you to be like more educated, more aware of what these issues are and what they consist of. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to produce that.
And where can people find those videos?
Working on that. So I'm currently in video editing hell. I have a Patreon. If you want to support me right now, because I'm actually financially, I'm pretty tight right now, which is actually slowing down the process. You can find me on patreon.com /XYChelsea. You can also find me on Twitter at XYChelsea.
Go and support her, folks.
Yeah, please support me. I really need it right now because I'm nearing the end of completion of this video. I said it was going to come out in May. I'm under delivering here, which is unfortunate. But I've had a lot of difficulty with the reopening and everything. Sort of like all this deluge of requests coming in all at once. As soon as I got vaccinated, as soon as I got fully vaccinated, everybody's like, Chelsea, you need to come on, and Chelsea, you need to come do this. Chelsea, you need to come do that. So managing all of that and trying to be a video editor all by myself has been difficult. You can also subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com /XYChelsea. I'm also on Twitch. So I have a Twitch. I have a
Yeah.
Twitch channel where people can hear about what I'm doing. It's twitch.tv/xychelsea87. And yeah, I've been busy. I have been working, 80, 90 hours a week, trying to get this video out and doing a bunch of other stuff all at once with all the reopenings and things.
So if anyone wants to see the first Chelsea drop,
Yeah.
it totally exists. It's a secret drop. It's a half-hour video drop.
Yeah.
And to get that drop working, we're going to need you to go to Patreon and get this
subscribe.
this Patriot movement going.
Yeah. So I have fully morphed into a grifter, Julian.
Welcome aboard.
You've sucked me into this world. It's very unfortunate, but it turns out that being on the left and having actual principles isn't very profitable. So I got to change my tune.
Yeah, yeah.